Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. We are live on the 21st of November, 2022. That's what the day is today. It is 3:30 p.m. Phoenix time. My name is Kerry Holzman. Thanks you guys so much for watching me and tuning in and participating in our chat room. Good to see everybody, all raring to go in the chat, all those familiar names and faces, and hopefully some new ones as well. I've gone ahead and opened the chat up to everybody in the public, so be prepared for the bots and the spammers, my friends in blue. I'm sure you'll waste no time in snuffing them out. If you ever witness any sort of harassment, spamming, anything like that in any YouTube chat room, be sure to report it to YouTube. Regardless of your status as a chat room participant, there's 3 dots at the end of every comment, and if you click on those 3 dots, one of the options is to report the comment. If you report the comment, and if many of you do that, YouTube's AI will kick in and automatically ban that account and takes it to a higher level. So the downside of my moderators reacting quickly to banning an account is it doesn't necessarily trigger any response from YouTube. If we work together as a team and we simply report that comment, and YouTube then gets a large number of those comments reported, YouTube's internal processes, it alerts essentially the AI, which given a certain number or frequency from that specific IP address or account, could then trigger even higher up security protocols to engage at YouTube. Or we could simply ban them. Either way, it works the same for us. It's just a question of whether or not you want that person's account to effectively become shut down or suspended. So just so you know, that's available to you as a viewer of YouTube videos in every live chat room. Those 3 dots, click and hit report. And Mark Baggett has become a member of our tech club. Right on. Thanks for joining us, Mark. And let's see. Today, what am I doing? I have 4 computers I have to get done and finished by Friday. So I'm hoping today that I'll just chat with you while I'm working. The boards I've got here are the B560 HD3. These boards were prepped months ago and they were recently updated with all the latest Windows updates and driver updates, whatever else was needing to be done. And now they just need to be placed in cases. I'm about out of these Corsair 200Rs. I think I have, minus the 4 I'm going to use for these builds, I think I have 4 left. The 200Rs are not discontinued. They're still available on Corsair's website, but they're just not in stock. So if you're patient enough, I'm sure you could still get one. However, this whole thing about them being discontinued has been said for like 10 years. I've been told for 10 years by randos on the internet that this is discontinued. Don't believe people on the internet, go to the source, get your information from the source. All right, so yeah, I'm just gonna do some work here and we'll chat back and forth while I'm working. I'm not gonna do any close-ups or anything like that. Essentially, I've got 4 systems that need to go into 4 cases with 4 power supplies, get them all wired up, make sure they boot, and then later on I'll go back to cable manage them and then put the final panel back on with a date of manufacture label. They go back in a box, and then all 4 boxes, if I get them done on time, will go out to the customer and I'll get them out of here, and there'll be 4 less machines I gotta deal with, which honestly doesn't make much of a drop in the bucket. But since I'm the only one who can do all the work, all the administrative work, all the sales work, all the support work, some days I don't get as much done as other days. So we'll see what happens today. So while we're hanging out together, if you have questions or topics you want to discuss, throw them out there in the chat room. I encourage you also to engage with one another. And as always, let's try and do our best to treat each other like real friends. I love the exchange of ideas, especially different ideas. What I don't like are ultimatums and people who get too emotionally attached to their, they mix their feelings and facts. So allow people the consideration to think differently, even if it makes no sense to you whatsoever, without taking it personally. All of us here and all of my good folks here in blue sort of know the routine, but if you're new here, you're certainly welcome, and I encourage you to join us in an open discussion of whatever you want to talk about is fine. I'm going to kind of glance up from time to time and see what's going on. And in the meantime, try and get, I don't know, at least 2 of these done today while I'm live. This is work that's been kind of sitting off to the side because the customer doesn't really need these until the first of the year. But well, actually, they need them a couple weeks before the first of the year to get them prepped for the tax season. With the tax software doesn't come out, I think, until it's not updated. Well, it's constantly updated, but it's always the first of the year for all of my tax accountant businesses that I support. And then, of course, things get super crazy busy for them in April. And then if there's going to be a support issue or a support call, it's always a high pressure panic attack. And of course, we will do pretty much nightly backups in April, probably from mid-March to mid-April, because they'll be working 10 to 14-hour days. They'll be inputting a lot of data. And if you lose 1 day's worth of work, it's not good. So this is the calm before the storm. And even though I'm in a bit of a rush to get them done, it's just because I have a bunch of other stuff I have to do after this. But as you can see, these are the B560 HD3 with the Scythe Mugen 5 coolers. They have a smaller NVMe drive on them, so we encourage the employees then to save their data to the local storage, the network storage versus their local storage. And by putting a small NVMe drive in, no more than about 512 gigs in most cases, if the employees aren't following the instruction and they are saving things locally, likely they will run out of space sooner rather than later. That draws our attention to the problem when the computer starts crashing because it's run out of memory. And then that allows us to address it before it gets out of hand. So that's why we do that for most businesses. Unless it's a home-based business, we want all the employees saving any data or any projects they're working on to a shared network source. I've already got the little plastic standoff in there on the motherboard. I've done so much prep work lately, it's almost novel putting the motherboard in the case. Okay, let's see. Not lining up correctly for me. Why not? Why not? It's time for the glasses. Let's see, Rick Lakes has popped in. Welcome in, Rick, and all our other friends here in the chat room. Good to see you guys. Hope you're having a good Monday. I can always tell what my week is going to be like based on how my phone rings on Monday. And today, my phone rang a lot. I was going to bring this video online 2 hours ago. But that's the way it is. That's not complaining about it. It's just letting you guys know why this started at 3:30 instead of, say, 1 o'clock or 1:30 today. And like I said, it's always a Monday. When this is going to happen, if it's going to happen, it's a Monday. And unfortunately, one of the support calls I've got, I can't fix over the phone. I'll likely have to go to the customer's location and address it. But least I can be better prepared when I go over there what tools I need to bring with me to fix the problem. Gary Tatum says hello. Scott Hallinan. There's Bill Sony T. Alan Spain. Glenn's Music. George Armstrong. Sure would be nice if I could put music on while I worked, while I'm broadcasting. When I have jobs like this, I'm normally like, could be 11 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night to 3 o'clock in the morning. I do work like this where I know I'm not going to get interrupted with the phone ringing, and I put some music on, and I can just solely focus without disruption or distraction on the job at hand. You guys intrigued me with that really high-end ASUS, forget the name of that router. It's like an $800 router. I did a little research on that router, and it turns out that it's basically a kit of 2 routers that you pair together, and that if you just want to buy one of those routers, which is all I should need for the size of Studio B, it's half the price. So I thought, okay, $450, something like that. It's much more reasonable. It's pretty much what I pay for my routers, and it's been a while since I've used an ASUS router, and I found on Amazon one that was returned. It was like $50 off. It's from Amazon Warehouse, so if I don't like it for any reason, I can send it back painlessly. So I'll be doing an upcoming review on both that ASUS router and an updated Netgear Nighthawk 11000AX. It's also a high-end router, about the same price, that has the Nighthawk Batwing shape to it. Because this one I've got here is a couple of years old. It's probably about 4 years old now, and it's at the far end of the building. The signal's a little iffy. I wish I could have put the router in the middle of the building instead of at one end of it. But I think either the new Nighthawk or the new ASUS router should cover the entire area without a problem. It's one of the advantages you have when you buy a new router, is they're more powerful. Their ability to get a signal through is much better. They can connect to more devices and handle them simultaneously. And what was the other benefit? They're usually mesh compatible, so that means if you still want to extend it beyond that, you can just buy another one and connect them together. You can have them connect wirelessly or wired. Wired's always a better way to connect them if you can. But if you can't, getting a tri-band router for mesh purposes, it's the way to go. And performance benefits of a new router are, you can't really tell from a review how a wireless router is going to work for you. Essentially, you can learn from the review what some of the features are, or maybe how they work. You get an idea how big it is. It's sort of its perspective. And you can get an idea of best case scenarios. But you could also get that same information from the product site. If you go to Amazon and look at the manufacturer's description of the product, they'll always tell you best case scenario performance. How it's going to work for you, you just won't ever know until you actually put it in your environment under your use case, because it's everything from what distance you have, what your building is made of, and of course what wireless devices you're connecting with. Older devices are still going to be older devices and be limited because they're older devices, and not necessarily going to be beneficial to you to have a new router in that instance, other than maybe range. And then of course, if you want things Amazon Alexa enabled and things like that, and you can, like with the ASUS router, you can tell Alexa to update your router's firmware, which is insane. So anyway, just don't rely too much on any wireless router reviews to establish whether or not it's going to work well in your environment. You'll only be able to tell by having it in your environment and using it with the devices you're going to hook up to it. Michael Dane joins us, says he just got an NVIDIA RTX 3050 Ti video card for $250. What a deal. You know those little arcade games I like to play? They have a Q*bert and they have a 1942. And I guess they weren't selling very well. They've got them severely discounted and they make them in very limited quantities. If you guys are interested in those 80s style arcades that are shrunken down to every detail, check out newwavetoys.com and take a look at what they've got in stock. Their prices are the cheapest I've seen them right now for these games. They have a competitor called Numbskull. They make quarter-sized arcades, 1/4 size, and they just announced Space Invaders 1 and 2, and the price on those way up. It's like $400, and they're taking pre-orders on those now. For those of us who are nostalgic for the old arcades, Space Invaders is a classic. New Wave Toys also has Missile Command. I think they have 2 versions of Missile Command, and they're re-releasing Dragon's Lair and Space Ace. So if you missed an opportunity to buy those, I'm not sure if they can be pre-ordered. They're not on sale, but the ones they've already made that they're just trying to blow out are on sale, the Q*bert and the Missile Command. I was never a fan of Missile Command, so that one doesn't interest me. At 1942, I played it a little bit, but it was a pretty inexpensive game, and I thought, yeah, help keep the collection complete. But Missile Command, yeah, not for me. Guess I can step over here. Oh, you know what? Let me go ahead and put the power supply in. I've got a power supply laying here that'll be perfect. This part of the job is is pretty boring for me. Is, you know, there's really not much I can do to make it go wrong. All of the product has been tested and verified to work. So this is mostly sort of the necessary part that I don't enjoy as much is the final assembly and of course cable management. The good thing though on these $200 is the cables are few and far between because we're not using any liquid cooling or RGB, and it usually doesn't take me very long to get the cable management done. And then hooking this rear fan up is a little bit of a challenge because I have to get alongside that heatsink. Sometimes I just take the heatsink right off, plug the cable in. I'll even sometimes take the fan off so I can cable manage that fan better. Put the fan back on, hook it up, put the heatsink back on. And as long as I'm not leaving the heatsink off very long, I don't have to reapply any thermal compound or anything. I kind of, you know, when I have to do that, I'm like, ugh. But it really only takes a couple minutes. It's really not a big deal. Let's see, here's our USB 3.0 cable, and this is our front port umbilicals, and this is our front port audio cable. Push those through. I want to flip this around here real quick just so I can plug these in without having to step around. Okay, let's see. Hard drive LED. Check. Reset switch. Check. power LED. Check. And power switch. Check. Finally, the front port audio cable. And check. Motherboard power. That will go, let's see, push that through there, bring it through. I don't want to intertwine or interweave the cables. I want to make sure that they're all free of one another. It makes the cable management easier, which means working on it in the future will be easier. And whether that'll be me or somebody else, doesn't matter. The idea is that I'm assuming it's going to be me, and I will certainly appreciate my efforts when it comes back for anything, upgrades, repairs, or even being retired, and it ends up being a, potentially another giveaway computer in about 8 years or so, I would guess, maybe a little earlier. This is the other reason I might take the heatsink off, is to get that CPU power connector on there. Let's see which way do we want to run that. Yeah, we'll run it that way, and that's just going to go right up there. So now to get this rear fan hooked up and get that 8-pin power connector, as well as get the rear fan cable managed, I will have to, well, I don't have to, but it'd be a lot easier for me to just go ahead and remove the heatsink and take care of that. And then all these extra power supply cables, they really get in the way. So what I'm going to do is just get a little wire tie out and sort of tie them up out of the way. What I'll do with the extra power cables is I kind of bundle them up and use an 8-inch nylon zip tie, and I go right through the bottom fan holes, because you should be putting a fan on the bottom of your computer. I don't know why anybody would do that unless you had a really, really small computer. Anyway, so I use the fan holes there to run the nylon zip tie out through the bottom of the case and back up, and then I just grab this extra bundle of what we have left over, and I individually wrap them and then hold them together, hold them down, and run the zip tie through them. And because they're not modular, I don't have to worry about them ever getting lost. You'll see me saving the extra large zip ties if you wonder why I do that. It's precisely for this reason, so I can use them temporarily to hold things out of the way. I could just use a zip tie and waste a zip tie, but it's just waste. I just need them out of my way temporarily while I work on the system. And all my zip ties are, I don't know where all my, I have some really long zip ties, and they're just in short supply here. That one ought to do it. Oh, you know what? I already had one. Okay. So for now, I'm not going to individually fold them. I'm just going to fold them all together just to get them out of the way so they don't drag around. If I can figure this out. So, that's how long that takes. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. When you're messing with your liquid cooler and all those cables and RGB and all those cables, I think you'll begin to understand what my resistance to that is with regards to doing a bunch of them versus just doing one. Home users maybe only build a computer once every couple of years, so not as big of a deal for a home user. Some home users won't even do cable management. They don't even care. Selden said reusable zip ties are available. Well, I've seen the reusable ones, and they do tend to get brittle, especially here in the dry climate of the Arizona desert. And then they break, the little plastic tabs break on them. Zip ties are very inexpensive. I can go through, you know, on some builds, like the mini helicopter or the big helicopter build, you know, I can go through 60 to 80 zip ties on just one build. So they're very inexpensive. I have plenty of them. I'm just, you know, trying to avoid waste, but I also I want to work quickly, and fidgeting around with a zip tie trying to get it unzipped on those reusable ones, it's costing me more in time than it would be to just cut it free and keep going. Sarge Tech said Velcro ties are nice. They absolutely can be, especially like on the NZXT cases. They make cable management so much easier. Here on the build like this, it doesn't really do me much good, but you know, everybody's got preferences. With the Velcro zip ties, you certainly need more of a variety of lengths. So the Velcro zip tie, the Velcro ones that I use are just whatever's left over from other parts I've purchased. I've never actually got out and bought any on purpose. All right. Well, I guess I can just pull this fan off, pull this heatsink off. Let's get this all cabled up. Let's just do it now. I'll set that fan just aside. I don't need to unplug the heatsink fan. It's got some dust on it though. Get that nice and clean. And the screwdriver will help us get this removed. Like I said, we're going to put it on in exactly the same direction, same orientation, and it's only going to be off for about 10 or 15 minutes, so we don't have to wipe and reapply thermal compound. That would be a completely wasteful and unnecessary step. Ron Barnish said the $200 are $179 at Corsair. I don't believe they are, Ron. I don't believe they are. I've seen a lot of third-party sellers gouging on prices for the Corsair 200Rs. So if you were to look at Amazon, you might find them at Amazon via a third-party seller that's just scalping. Corsair themselves, they don't sell them for anything more than the suggested retail price. Unfortunately, it can be very, very confusing to your average consumer to understand when they're buying from Amazon and when they're buying from a third-party seller on Amazon. Generally, it's the price that's your first indicator, but you can always go to Corsair.com, and there's a little magnifying glass up in the corner. Oh, you know what? I can just show you. I can just show you, because we can talk all day, right? And you can choose to believe me or not. But if I actually show you, there's nothing to argue about. So let's do it. Let's do two ways here. Let me go put my screen share on. Make sure that I have that enabled. Okay, there it is. So I'll just give you an example of what I'm talking about. If you look at, let's see, let's put myself in the corner here. Here we go. So if we go to Amazon, let's just start at Amazon. Amazon. And we look at the Corsair 200R. You'll see that at $179.73, you can look to see who it's being sold by. Now, this is being sold by Amazon's global store in the United Kingdom. So that's part of the reason it's so much money. They'll ship it over across the ocean to you. Now, you can also see they're used and new from other sellers here, but just because it appears on the main page does not mean that that's coming from Corsair. Because if you actually went to Corsair and Many manufacturers you can buy directly from, like Western Digital and SanDisk and Corsair. There's this little magnifying glass, which my camera might be covering up. Yeah, let me turn the camera input off for a second so I can show you. So there's this magnifying glass right here, and you'll find it on almost all manufacturer pages. And all we have to do is type in 200R and press enter. If the product wasn't made anymore, it wouldn't be listed in their catalog. And as you can see, we have two different 200Rs. One is refurbished and one is new. Interestingly, the refurbished one is $5 more, but they're both currently out of stock. And what you can do is you can click on it and you can put your email address to be notified when it's back in stock. And that's how you know that the retail price has not changed whatsoever. And then of course, going to the refurbished one, I don't know why that's $5 more, but of course it's out of stock as well. And again, if you want to know when it comes back into stock, you can click that button and put your email address in. Apparently you need to create an account first. If you don't have an account, that's free to do. You just need your name, your email address, where you're located, and then what passwords you want to use. And you would use that when you want to buy from Corsair. Obviously you have to have an account, so you have a way to track your order and check your order status. And let's see, you can uncheck that box, that's optional. And of course that box at the bottom has to be checked. And that's how you can very easily tell when you're dealing with a third-party seller, which is very confusing on Newegg. You think it's confusing on Amazon? Holy cow. At least Newegg has a checkbox you can check that says, only show me where Newegg is the seller. Otherwise, you could think that the product price went up when in fact it did not. It's supply and demand. You know, if somebody's willing to pay it, that's what they're hoping for. They could have that listed for a year. And as long as somebody buys it, worth it. So that's the mentality they have, these third-party sellers have. Or they're hoping you don't know what the product is worth and that you will just pay thinking that that's the going price, and they're happy with that too. So very understandable the way the system is, that it would be confusing for people. All right, let me get this 8-pin power connector plugged in. That's done. And I don't know if I should take this fan out to cable management. I think I can do it in the case. It's a little easier if I just take the fan out, but let's see. Michael wants to know how I like cases made by Cougar. Michael, they're okay. They're not the best. They're not the worst. At the end of the day, cases are mostly about if you can fit the parts you want in them, and if they sell for a price and have an aesthetic or a look that you like. So it really depends on the individual. One person's trash, you know, is another person's treasure. I've built in a number of Cougar cases, and they're very inexpensive cases. You're not going to get, you know, really strong sheet metal. You're not going to get a lot of bells, whistles, and features. But if you're looking for something cheap to get the job done, I wouldn't hesitate to use Cougar, especially over like Newegg's brand Rosewell or something. I think Cougars are better than those, but not by much. They're very aggressively priced. Let's see, we'll grab one of these zip ties here. How do I like the Thermaltake case? So Thermaltake, you know, that's a tough one because Thermaltake's cases are usually very, very strong, thick sheet metal, but they very rarely give you any consideration for airflow on the power supply. And so a lot of times on many Thermaltake cases, you have to flip your power supply upside down. I don't like having the fan drawing the hot air in from the case. I also don't like having the fan exposed when I'm working on a computer. Drop a screw and it goes down in your power supply. That's not good news. So on the helicopter build, that was a Thermaltake case, and it offered no cable management at all. No consideration for cable management, no consideration for your power supply breathing and the proper orientation. But it's a very cool, unique case, and I think it was a really good value for the money. When you consider all the metal and glass and everything that was custom made for that case, I think the price they sold it for was a bargain. In a perfect world, I would have liked some airflow at the bottom, some holes or something for the power supply to be oriented properly, and I would have liked some cable management consideration. I don't think anybody does a better job as far as case manufacturers go with cable management consideration. NZXT leads the way. And their cases are also very strongly built, and they're a bit pricier though. You'll pay more for them. And NZXT does give you power supply consideration. Oh, your power supply needs to breathe too? I didn't know that. But yeah, Thermaltake's fine. And you know what? Their power supplies are pretty good too, in my opinion. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think I'm going to take the fan out. There we go. Just easier to just take the fan out, let me cable manage it, and put it right back in there. Better than struggling. All right, so we know these brackets are going to face the back of the case, and I want the cable to come out this side. But I don't want the end to be towards the fan. I want the end to go that way, and that's too much cable. Too much slack there, so we're going to have to fold this differently. I normally don't show this process other than when I'm doing a live build, if we take it that far. It's just really not much for you to see. It's very dark even for me to be able to look down in that case. Even if I had an overhead camera, my hands would be covering everything I'm doing. So it's not great video, and there's not a certain way to cable manage. You have to kind of figure it out on your own and determine what your standards are for what's acceptable in your cable management. So there's just not a solid sort of, this is how you always do it sort of instruction I can offer you. The process will vary based on every piece of hardware you've got, essentially. Your case primarily, but also your power supply, the length of the cables, and the consideration for where the cables can go, once again, based on what your case offers you. Some of it's a bit of a struggle to get a bunch of stuff into a smaller case. You know, liquid coolers and RGB lighting are going to pretty much double your cable management, if not more than double it. And that's okay if you don't mind doing it, but just know what to expect. And if you take your time and you do a really good job, it might mean you have to run a cable, tie it down, you don't like it, cut the tie, being careful not to cut the cable. Do it again, do it again, do it again, until you finally find a way that looks good. And when it's all said and done, it looks great. And the next computer you do, you'll probably do it entirely differently because you likely won't have the same components. Let's see, let's get this plugged in. Yeah, so much easier without the fan in the way. These fans, the screws, when I'm screwing the fan back in, I don't want to crush the rubber grommet that's around the mounting hole, because that's there as an anti-vibration dampener to prevent noise. So you don't tighten these down super tight. Once you see that washer start to spread out, back that screw off a little bit. It's too tight. If you take a close look at the way the rubber grommet is smashed out, before you take the screw out, you'll know how to put it back that way. Take a picture with your phone if you need to. If you over tighten it, what's going to happen is you're going to wear those grommets out sooner, and you'll likely suffer a vibrational issue with the fan sooner. I say sooner because it will eventually happen if you keep the computer long enough. And again, depending on where you live and what your humidity levels are like in your environment, will make a big, big difference in the longevity of anything rubber or plastic. If I have say something comes in the mail and it's got a big rubber band around it, and I'm like, rubber band, I can use that in the future. Within about 3 or 4 months, that rubber band here in Phoenix, just sitting out in a dry atmosphere, will become brittle, and I'll go to use it, and as I pull it, it'll just snap. So rubber bands have to be fresh. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to snap a lot of them if you're saving them. This is the downside of living in the desert, I guess. One of the many. Do I still have the HP computer I reviewed? No, I got rid of that computer long time ago. I don't like the way I tighten those. I want to take some tension back off of this side for a minute. Bring it back down. This one's an 11900K. I think the rest of them are 11600s. So I think the big boss gets this one, and then the other employees will get the i5s. I think that's what this is. I'll have to turn it on and check. Yeah, see, it was no big deal to take the heatsink off, take the rear fan off. It gives me an opportunity to get it all hooked up correctly. And now, as long as it tests fires okay, takes us into Windows, I'll put the remaining leftovers there in the box along with the case cover screws. And I'll do the cable management a bit later so I can bring the next one up and do the same exact thing again. And I have to do that 3 more times. Oops. Let's get the internet plugged in. Let me get a keyboard and mouse on this thing. This should be just a formality. I can't imagine why we'd have any problems. I also want to check and make sure the power light on the case lights up and the hard drive activity light blinks on and off. And of course the power button needs to work. So that's a nice little quality control check before we put the cable management in place. Last thing I want to do is have to undo the cable management to address an issue. So cable management will always be the final step. And once cable management is done, it will be test fired again to make sure I didn't pull any cables too tightly or knock any cables loose. So I'll check the same thing. Power lights coming on. Hard drive activity lights working, et cetera, et cetera. You see how cables get intertwined and it makes everything more complicated than it needs to be. All right, we're turned on there. We're plugged in here. There's no optical drive. There's no Wi-Fi we have to hook up. I do not hook up these front fans unless there is an internal graphics card. So those fans will sit more or less as hot spares. If the client has an issue, we can quickly replace that rear fan by utilizing the one up front, which will still be brand new and never used. That's the logic behind that. Jason Willis contributes $5 via Super Chat and says, thank you, sir. Hey, Jason, thank you. Thank you for supporting the channel. Let's give this a shot. Let me go over to my HDMI input, which I have right here. Once again, I'll put myself in a corner and we'll turn this on. Power light has come on. I want to see a post and I want to get in Windows 10. It's been all updated. I want to see the hard drive LED blink on and off, which it is doing. Fans are spinning. Everything looks great. And we're in Windows. Out of curiosity, is this the 11900? I think it is. I really should tag it. Well, I will. I'll probably write on the box so the owner will know. No, it's an 11. They're all 11600s. Okay. Okay, so if that's an 11600, 32 gigs of RAM, and oh, I have a terabyte in there. I don't normally put a terabyte in. Let me see. I don't know what this index card is from, but it's not this build. So normally what I'll do is I get a little index card out, which I keep in this drawer in a little Ziploc bag with a pen. Because if I need an index card, I need a pen. So digging through trying to find loose index cards drives me crazy. So I just keep them in a little Ziploc bag with the pen, and then I can make notes on the system. So this is CPU is an Intel 11600K, RAM 32 gigs, right? DDR4. The motherboard is gigabyte B560 HD3 with the latest BIOS. Solid state drive is the Intel. Is it Intel? Yeah, it's an Intel. 1 terabyte. Is it a 660, 665, or 670? We can find out by looking at the details. It's so far away from me. I gotta walk up closer. It's not telling me. Properties. It's not telling me what it is. You know what? Let me go over to the Intel driver updater. This should tell us what it is. It's usually in the model name. Not seeing it here. doesn't help that it's so far away either. Let's just copy that. Keep grabbing the wrong mouse. Shows it's a 660p. Okay. That's what I thought it was. Not that the customer even knows what any of this means, but it's for my own sanity that I know what I'm selling. Okay, that looks good. Let's turn that off. We can shut this down. And then go back over to full screen on camera 1. There we go. And then what else do I write down? I write down that the operating system, well, wait, the power supply is an EVGA 500 watt white. And the OS is Windows 10 Pro, and it is activated. Yeah, so apart from the cable management, and then finally the panels go on, and that system is ready to be delivered to the customer. Pretty boring stuff, really, to me. I like prepping the motherboards, making sure they have the latest BIOS. All that stuff that goes along with the new, with motherboard prep, really. Spare screws will go into the box along with the side. The driver is in there, power cord is in there. I'll just set it up here, keep these together. I will use these zip ties later. This is trash. This index card stays with the system. And the way I do that is through the magic of Scotch tape. Together. Just like that. And that's how I keep everything organized and sane. Also, I'll have a hard time finding these thumb screws if I just leave them about. So I just throw them in the box and I know where I can find them later. And then all I have to do then is just some very light cable management is all these 200Rs require. So I will take care of that business later on, and we'll move on and do another one. Exciting, right? Are you jealous? Stuff gets so tedious after a while. That looks good. We'll set this aside. Don't mind me while I'm off out of the frame, keep getting the other stuff together. Now these will have different NVMe drives and different RAM. Customer doesn't care. So customer doesn't care, I don't care. As long as I can warranty it all the same and it's going to meet the same specs. These should have 512 gig drives in them though. I don't know why I put a 1 terabyte in the other one. But it's not worth it for me to clone it and replace it. It's fine, just leave it as is. Time is money. I'm going to get the next 200R out of the box, so I'm just grab my razor blade and I'm cutting the box now. So bear with me here for just a second. And I'm going to need to put the case up here. So we'll move that one aside. This one's next. This should be all the same specs. So I need to just verify that. I do have a stack of Post-it notes as well. The problem is they're not lined, so if I start writing on these, it starts going down, and I run out of paper. So I find the index cards help me keep my writing size the same, so I'm not writing larger or smaller on just an empty sheet of paper, and it also helps keep everything in a straight line. That's why I use the index cards. They probably have lined Post-it notes. I know they had some like 8-inch size, so that's too big. So it's just a system that works for me. I'll keep it simple kind of guy, you know. Even if keeping it simple makes me have to work a little bit harder. It's sort of a condition that comes with age. You get to learn a process, and there may be a more advanced or easier process, rather, more efficient process. But if what you're doing is working for you, no sense fixing what ain't broke. Niles Van de Sand says, what did I do wrong with Acronis if I have an unallocated space on my solid state drive after cloning, and how do I get it back because the extend the volume does not work? Well, if you were restoring an image versus cloning, it's the cloning that resizes your partition, not the restoring of the image. And I think there's still a way to do it on the restore, but you have to do it manually, I think. As far as extending the partition sizes, you can usually go right into disk management in Windows and do it through there. If you need to move the partitions around, then you would need a partition managing software like EaseUS has a free one. You could use a partition tool. I also think the mini partition tool, there's some free ones out there that you'll likely need. Don't be afraid to jump on over to Reddit. Acronis has a support forum there. And if you just go to Google and type in Acronis space Reddit, you can jump into that forum, and users help users, as well as Begowden, who will be here next week to talk about the latest version of Acronis. He monitors that area and answers customers' questions or potential customers' questions about the product. And he can answer that a lot better than I can, as could probably a lot of the people that are regulars in that forum. It's a great place to go for answers rather than just Googling for answers. That Reddit forum that is for Acronis is priceless. Of course, you can always reach out to Acronis directly through chat, email. They probably also have a phone number. But what's done is done. Now you're just trying to correct it. So I would just probably use EaseUS' partition wizard or the mini partition tool, you know, one of those free utilities, if you can't resize that partition in Disk Manager. I'd always try to avoid third-party software that I'm only going to use once. So when you're done with it, be sure, I can't emphasize enough that you uninstall it, get rid of it. Free software is only free because, well, you're basically giving them permission to your data, the way you use the computer. So if you're done with the tool, uninstall it. Okay, there's our I/O shield in. Bags of screws out of the way. They're all extra. We won't need any of those. Gonna need a power supply, aren't I? Do I have another 500 watts sitting here? 500 watt brown. Oh, here's another 500 watt white. Fantastic. Good job, Carrie. Well done. Power supply screws. I don't want to come out of the bag. Did I leave? No. I already moved this? I don't remember taking the wireless dongle out, but it looks like I've already moved it. I'm so... I can do this so robotically without thinking. I'm doing things and not even realizing I'm doing them. It's just so automated to me. But yeah, I moved the dongle and already had it plugged in. That I can't put this motherboard in with the dongle in. It won't go through the hole. So I'm going to keep that out until I need it. All these motherboards are 11600K Core i5 11th gen CPUs. And these coolers are overkill for them, but at least I know this customer in their office won't listen to loud fans. They won't have to deal with it. Not that they complained, but the last time I was over there, the stock fans when I sold those computers were quiet. But because they're not doing any maintenance on them and the dust is built up, and they're in another state, so it's not like I'm going to go do it for them. So I'm like, all right, no more stock fans for you. Clunk Alex says hello from hot Jamaica. Welcome in, Clunk Alex. Nice to have viewers from the Caribbean joining us. Thanks to other members in our chat for helping each other out here with links and answering questions. That's what this community is all about. Sean Ballard said, hello from Chicago. I got up to 55 degrees Fahrenheit today. Picked up a Samsung Evo 512 solid state drive for under 30 bucks. Hope you're having a great day. Yeah, I do expect there's going to be some really good deals on solid state drives. You think that was a good deal? Just wait till Black Friday and Cyber Monday. The only problem with waiting is they might sell out really fast. So it sounds like a great deal though. 30 bucks. Did well. Mick N says, love it, Carrie. Brilliant. Right on. Thanks, Mick. Gary says he's jealous. He loves building computers. Well, get over here. I got some TV to watch. You can get to work. I'm such a kidder. I kid. Gee, I wonder what I'm going to do next. Martin Hogg said it is 6 degrees in Scotland. Oh, would love that. I miss the cold. I miss it so bad. I miss the snow. One of these days. One of these days I'll get back to it. Hopefully soon. I will say having the heatsink attached to the board makes it a lot easier to install the board into the case. But because this case, the 200R, it's a pretty tight fit at the top with this heatsink, then taking the heatsink off to hook up that 8-pin CPU power cable and the rear case fan make it so much easier with the heatsink out of the way, and it's really just 2 screws to take the heatsink off. I just hate undoing work I've done, even if it is just 2 screws. It just rubs me the wrong way. But what also rubs me the wrong way is doing a job using shortcuts. It's not the word I wanted to use, but I'm keeping it family friendly. So it's always worth it to me to go the extra mile to ensure it's done right the first time. Xrod666 contributes $5, says, hello, Carrie. I'm keeping an eye out for some good deals. I hope to find a 3080 for a decent price for a buddy of mine, building a PC for him. Go over to slickdeals.net, sign up for a free account, and let them know what product categories you want to be made aware of. And you will get emails, a lot of emails, especially this time of year. Every morning I wake up to about 30 to 50 new emails from slickdeals.net. And some of the deals come and go very quickly. So if you're not checking your email a couple times a day, by the time you check it, the deal could already be expired or sold out. Slickdeals.net. It's free service. Of course, they make a commission on anything you buy. That's how it's all paid for. And then once you've purchased whatever you wanted, you can go ahead and either delete your account or just tell it to stop sending you emails so that you could turn it back on the next time you're looking for a deal. I have it go to my Gmail account. That way it doesn't interfere with my regular email correspondence. Renee has contributed $13.99 Canadian. Thank you, Renee. And thank you, Xrod666, for your continued support. Now check out slickdeals.net. And if you get bombarded with a bunch of emails for sales, maybe restrict the categories that you're selecting. I made the mistake of selecting all the tech products and just got slammed during the holidays. But okay, I guess I don't really need to know about TVs and stuff like that. So you can control how much email you get. After the holidays, you might get like a dozen emails every, say about 1 or 2 emails an hour on average, I want to say. Let's see, USB cable goes there. Front board umbilicals. Let's start with hard drive LED. Where are you, hard drive LED? There he is. And then I want the reset switch next. It's right there. Then I want the power LED next. Got to get the positive and negative cable in the right order here. They separate those on the power LED. There we go. And then finally the power switch. That's our front port umbilicals hooked up, and then our front port audio cable is going to go right at this bottom left corner of the motherboard here. So dark. I can take the big power cable here to the motherboard, that out the back. Then of course I can take the heatsink back off, take the rear fan out, hook up that 8-pin CPU power cable. I guess I need to run it first though, don't I? 8-pin EPS power or CPU power, depending on what you want to call it. And then, let's see, how do I want to run that? Just like that, through there. There it goes. Rocket science. Save that zip tie. I didn't realize I used up all my big zip ties. I mean, cable ties. Of course, you never want to leave a cable tie in a computer because it's made of metal, right? And as it ages, it gets brittle, it could break off. And if it shorts out anything behind the motherboard or in your system, like if your power supply is installed with the fan up and it goes down in there, that's a fire hazard. It will seriously cause some, potentially, it's very dangerous and expensive damage. All because you were too lazy, apparently, or you weren't paying attention. So it's not something you typically experience right away, but over time, it'll happen when you least expect it. You'll forget all about it. And you might see a spark or a flash or smoke, or you might not see anything at all, just the system stops working. Typically, it would happen after you moved the system, whether you moved it for cleaning or you physically moved to another location. That's when opportunities for like that occur. For like that, is that what I said? You know what I mean. Not an English teacher. Do I cap any unused wires in the case? The wires are already capped in the sense that there's already connectors on the ends. If we were dealing in power delivery, like if I was leaving some electrical wires not hooked up coming out of a circuit panel of a house, the main power panel, those need to be terminated into a junction box. And then all those cables should be running conduits. What we do with computers, it's all low voltage, 5 volts and 12 volts mostly. And as long as we have the ends have connectors on them, then they're already insulated and protected. All we want to do is cable manage them so they don't get caught up in a fan or could get ripped out because somebody's pulling on one cable, not realizing it's cable tied to another cable, and they'll rip the connectors right out of they'll rip the wire right out of the connector. So I try to cable manage the groups individually, so all the front board umbilicals are cable managed together. Let me rephrase, the power switch, reset switch, power LED, hard drive LED, those are cable managed together. The USB 3 cable, that's the split cable, I'll just put the cable back on top of itself so it's not as ugly looking, and I'll zip tie that individually. And then the extra slack on the audio cable, I will individually take up that slack. Then together, those cables get bunched together and then zip tied and attached onto one of the loops on the back of the case. And that keeps everything from, you're not dealing with any shorts potentially. That potential's been completely removed when you do it that way. Working on the system's easy because once you cut the main 8-inch cable tie that holds the group together, you have separate groups of cables that aren't intertwined and are individually run so that you don't have to deal with not only cutting through those cable ties carefully without cutting through the wire. If you cut through the wire, you pretty much have to replace the case unless you can get a new front panel. It's no joke. It's not fun. And it keeps the job just faster and easier. And it looks good. Andy says, isn't it 3.3, 5, and 12? I don't know if anything's still using 3.3, but yeah, I guess 3.3 is still on the power supply. We're mostly using 5 and 12, but 3.3 is a part of it. Again, I'm not quite sure what's using 3.3 these days, but regardless, it's low voltage. And low amperage too, in most cases. All right, what was I doing? I'm gonna get the dust off of the top of this heatsink here before I take it out. I'm just leaving the heatsink fan in the case so I don't have to unplug it and plug it back in, because that's also a tight fit on the other side of the heatsink. And I don't want it resting on the RAM, so I just kind of push it away from the RAM and let it rest on top of the main motherboard power cable to keep it from touching anything. And it's just there for a few minutes when I do the work. It eventually goes right back where it belongs. Chris Kelly wants to know if all Corsair cases come with fans. I don't know. I mean, I don't work for Corsair, and their fans, their case designs change rather frequently. So it's quite possible they sell a case without fans, or that they have, or that they will. So it would really depend on which case you're looking at. For the most part, case fans for most people are entirely unnecessary, except for the rear exhaust fan. As long as you have a rear exhaust fan, you really don't need any other fans beyond that. Obviously, you'll have one on if you have a video card, your video card will likely have at least one fan. Your power supply has a fan, and your CPU heatsink will typically have a fan. And that's all you need. If you're running a super high-end system and you're drawing a lot of power, then you're drawing a lot of heat. And likely the kind of solution you're going to need to keep it cool is more than just fans. You might need liquid cooling, or you may need, depending on what you're doing, if you're overclocking or overvolting, that's going to increase an unusual amount of heat for a system versus, running it the way the engineers designed it. People get caught up with fans. Fans don't actually cool anything down. If you have a ceiling fan in your house and you turn the ceiling fan on, the temperature of the room does not go down. A fan is not an air conditioner. A fan moves air, and that movement of air helps blow the heat away from the heatsink, which keeps the CPU running cooler, but it doesn't lower the temperature of the essentially, I'm trying to explain this. If you have a way to measure your room temperature and you turn a ceiling fan on, but keep the HVAC off, the room temperature doesn't change apart from how the outside temperature is changing. The hotter it is outside, the hotter it is inside, and vice versa. But the fan moves air, and the movement of the air for us as humans has a cooling effect. So we ourselves can cool down. The temperature of the room does not. So keep that in mind when we talk about cooling. Fans don't really effectively cool so much as they move air. And the movement of the air helps push the heat away, and that in effect can help the actual temperature of the thing you're trying to cool. That's why a liquid cooler is so much more effective. But liquid coolers still need fans to blow air through the radiators. So again, it's just the movement of air. Once you're moving the air, moving more air doesn't necessarily have any effect of cooling anymore. I guess that's what I was getting at. Some people you'll see have a bunch of fans in their system, and if you challenge them to disconnect all the fans except for the rear one, their CPU fan, obviously the power supply fan, video card fan, and if they have a liquid cooler, those fans all have to be activated. Any additional fans at the bottom of the case, they're all just there for looks. They don't really do anything. They make noise and they suck up power, and ironically, those fan motors generate heat, and the more power you're pulling from the power supply generates more heat from the power supply, which is inside of the case. So in a way, once you reach a certain number of fans in your system, you're then adding more heat than you are removing it. And it's something to be aware of, not to mention noise and maintenance and cable management, etc. But do what's right for you and run your own tests. See for yourself what works best for you. Bill Binder contributes £5 via Super Chat. Right on. Thank you, Bill. Bill says, cheers, Carrie. Cheers, Bill. Okay, CPU power's on. Let's get that rear fan out of here. You notice I'm not using the cordless driver on this when I tighten them. So I don't want to squish those grommets down too far. I could split them. That one is not tightening at all. That's better. I just want to verify that I'm not squishing these too much. Yep, that's good. So I don't normally do this stuff on camera because it's pretty boring, I think. So I'm sure there are going to be some new viewers or people who are not understanding and will say, well, so glad you showed us how to build a computer when we can't see what you're doing. So that's coming. What are you going to do? It's the internet. But for the rest of you, you'll understand this isn't something I normally show for that reason, but hopefully we all get to hang out, and that's the point. Keyboard and mouse. All that looks good. HDMI cable got slippery. There you go. All right, so these two fans should spin. I don't hook that one up. Power lights on. Switch over to HDMI and see that we get a signal here. There it is. Oh, didn't activate Windows on this one? Shame on me. These get triple checked before they go out. I assume the other one was activated, but I could be wrong. This one is just 16. Why is the other one 32 and this one's 16? I thought they were all the same. That one's 16, and what's this one? Every one of these is 16, so I might change the RAM out of that other one. I think that's or did that one have 16? Gosh darn, I gotta go back and look again. I was looking at an index card that had the wrong information on it, so I probably looked right at it and wasn't even looking at it. You know what I mean? All right, so we're at 16 gigs. That's right, for a Core i5, it makes sense. 11600K, yes, yes, yes. Why is it Windows 10 not activated? That's what happens when I get busy. I get distracted. I put something aside that I wasn't finished with the intent to come back to it, and I completely forget what I needed to come back to it for besides, eventually it all just needs to get put in a case with a power supply. Power supply, speaking of which, is a EVGA 500 watt. Oh, it says not activated right on the card. Silly me. Okay, I'll take care of that later. That's easy. Easy, easy. Hard drive LED is blinking on and off. Fans are spinning. Yeah, everything looks good. And this says it's a Team brand 1 terabyte drive. Now see, when I looked at it visually, usually the Team drives I buy are cheap, meaning inexpensive, and they're usually 512s, but I've done some things differently here. Probably because they were on sale. They were probably like 20 bucks more to get double the size, and I thought, I'll just get double the size. Okay, that one's done. That's all I needed to do for now. Doesn't affect cable management or anything else. Everything is checks out. We can now go back full screen on camera 1. There we go. Pull out the third one. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to pull that other system up and take a look again. Because you know what? This is what happens. I'm like, oh, I'll check that later, and then I'll forget. So I better do it right now. If you ever notice, you see me stop and clear the desk and whatever, I'm doing that because if I don't do it right now, I'm going to forget. I get focused onto the next thing. So let's get this set aside. This one's good to go. And let's put the other one. Let's put the other one back up and check it here. I want to make sure Windows is activated, and I want to verify how much RAM we have in here too. Let's see. So we'll go over to my computer, right-click, Properties. 32 gigs with 31.8 usable. Yeah, it's 32 gigs and activated. We're activated. All right, so I don't know why this one has 32 and the others have 16. I'll probably pull the 32 out of here and switch that out. They're all supposed to be the same, Carrie. I'm sure I used what I had handy. It must have been some RAM I had already out of the package, and I grabbed it to prep the board knowing I would switch it out later. Once again, I didn't leave a note to myself and completely forgot. So that's what happens when you get super busy and you got, all these computers going in and out the door, repairs, upgrades, builds, dealing with potential sponsors and support from customers. It all just gets a little bit overwhelming sometimes. This is saying it's a 11600K. It looks like we have an Intel 1 terabyte. 660p, and it says Windows 10 Pro is activated. Okay, good, good. Put that aside. And I've got a power supply brand new in the box for this one, so we'll be using that here soon. I'll set it over here for now. And then I've got to grab my box cutter and take another 200R out of the box, so I'll be off the frame here for just a moment. But you'll still hear me. Not that I have anything to say at this point, and hopefully you don't hear ouch. It's a sharp knife. I'm gonna have to unbox this one in the other room. I'm running out of room to put the empty box, so it'll just stay over in this other side of the wall behind me. What to do first? Oh, I need the IO shield. See, Frank Jimmy joins us in the chat. Welcome in, Frank. Good to see you, my friend. Shield is in. Donnell Reyes says hello in the chat. Mike Ladd says, My builds are determined by the usage, how the customer is going to use it. He's never had a complaint. Uses an i5 and below for business, i7 for gaming, and i9s for high-end editing. Doesn't get easier than that. Well, I mean, assuming all businesses are the same. Yikes. But overall, that principle, I agree with it. I generally will do i7s for business and i9s for other businesses. The i5s we would do for smaller, more budget-constrained businesses where perhaps maybe a small office or self-employed or somebody's remoting into work from home. i5s are fine for that. Usually more budget conscious. But overall, yeah, editing for sure, you'll never have enough power, you'll never have enough storage, and you'll never have enough RAM for editing. It's consuming of all resources. Let's see, I could put the power supply in, get that out of the way. Kevin says he does i5s or i7s mostly. He's never had a client that needed or wanted an i9 until recently. Yeah, it's great. It's awesome, you guys. Listen to your clients, understand what their needs are, and that includes their budget. And so much better customer service than you're going to get from any of the system integrators, you know, the pre-builts, dealing with the big box retailers and such, having that personal touch with the pride that you built it yourself, and probably save the customer a lot of money. And more than likely, you guys are building systems that will last much, much longer than any of those systems that are made by the system integrators. And you build those relationships with your customers, and hopefully they'll refer you to other people they know. And as their business grows, hopefully your business grows right along with them. That's awesome. That's how you do it. Mike says, you're a real business. I am word of mouth. I do it on the side. That's how I started. He says, the client determines what they want. I can only advise. Exactly. But you also have to support it. So if the client, what if the client wants you to build something that you think is likely going to be problems that you're going to be called about for support and expected to do the work for free? Would you ever say, I'm not the right builder for you, or would you do it anyway and take the money? It's not a wrong answer here, by the way. I'm just genuinely curious. Sheese in the chat room says, I want a system with an i9 12900K, an RTX 4090, and a 600 watt power supply. Well, you're going to be about 150 watts short. So if you actually push that system to its limits, you will likely get a blue screen crash. If you're using a 40 series graphics card, minimum, you'd want a 750. And if I were you, I'd get an 850. You're going to be real shy of that on 600 watts. But if you never really fully utilize it, you know, where you're really drawing a lot of power from making the thing work, then 600 watts would be fine. But the potential's there for a voltage issue, just so you know. He says it was sarcasm. Yeah, I don't know how sarcasm works in a text without emojis, so you shouldn't expect anybody to know you're being sarcastic unless you use emojis. We can't see your face and we can't hear your tone. And so emojis are critical to convey communication if it's not meant to be taken seriously. Let's see. You might have been talking about, I don't know what the chat room was talking about, so that might have been in reference to some other ongoing conversation. I'm just glancing up from time to time, so I was concerned somebody else might read that and, like myself, not know you're being sarcastic. Could inadvertently create confusion. But I appreciate the clarification. Ron S. with a $10 super chat says, isn't Phoenix better than Michigan? Haha, thanks for your videos. Hey, to each their own, Plenty of people from Michigan moved to Phoenix to get away from the snow. And plenty of people after they moved to Phoenix realized how horrible it is and moved back to Michigan again. I really miss the seasons, and I miss the wildlife, and I miss the culture, and I miss the food, and I miss the fresh air. But I was born and raised there, that's my home. I didn't get to pick where my home was. Now you got me thinking about Buddy's Pizza. Darn you. We do have Jet's Pizza out here, which, is pretty good. Pretty good for Detroit style pan pizza. Get that back on there. Isn't this riveting? It's the most riveting video you've ever made, Gary. I don't know why you don't do this more. It's not straight. All right, motherboard's mounted, power supply's mounted. And the screws and the CVGA manual can all go into this motherboard box, so the customer will have that. I already have a power cable in there, so this power cable can go over here. What do I do with my pen? power supply, EVGA, 500 watt. Frank says he's glad he doesn't have to shovel snow anymore. Yeah, well, if you've been doing it for a long time, I imagine you wouldn't want to do that anymore. But geez, these days they got tools that you basically start a motor and push the thing and it does it for you. And that stuff used to be super expensive back when I was growing up, and now they're easily affordable. MP wants to know if I built the time circuit on the bottom corner of the screen. That's from a website called justgeek.com. Lots of cool stuff over at justgeek.com. They also sell those little arcade machines I was talking to you about too. Is there any good Mexican food in Michigan? I don't know, Chris. I don't eat Mexican food. You'd have to ask. Maybe someone in the chat room can tell you. I'm a very fussy eater. I don't eat Chinese food or Thai food. I don't eat any ethnic food except Italian. That's it. Everything else is pretty much all American. Pretty boring guy when it comes to food and everything else. Depends who you ask. It's all about chicken nuggets and pretzels. They eat like a 2-year-old. Hasn't killed me yet, but you know, tomorrow's another day, maybe. Let's see, hard drive LED, where are you? There you are. You go to your place, reset switch. You go to your place, power LED. Oh, I can't see anything in here. Oh, that's better. I need a light to see where to hook up the light. And the last one is the power switch. And you go in your place. There you go. All right, and then USB 3 cable. It's all twisted up. If I take the time to untwist it now, I won't have to take it back off and do it later. And our front port audio cable. Now that USB 3 cable's all twisted up. There we go. So that's all the front port umbilicals. Now I can get the power cables. What do we start this at? 3:30 and it's 5:30, so it's taking me about 45 minutes for each one. Of course, I'm having a little bit of conversation while I'm working, and generally it can only do one thing at a time, so I think I'm making pretty good time. I'm not in a hurry. It's more important to make sure I get it done right. And just because it's so brainless, this work, it's nice to have you guys to hang out and keep me company. It's either you or Spotify. That's the power cable. CPU power. Run that out the back. All these cables. This is like the twisted cable build. Out of my way. It's like catch on everything on the table here. That's better. Yikes. Didn't mean to run that cable behind the power cable, so I'm going to reroute that. In fact, I'm going to just leave that off for a minute. Put this up here. Try that one more time. Heatsink will come off next, so I can take off the rear fan, hook up the CPU power cable, and then the rear fan cable, put that back on, and we can fire it up and move on to the last one. Red Dragon with a $5 contribution says, have a Pepsi on me for the shooting ring. Okay, thank you, Red Dragon. Prefer a Coke, but appreciate the support. Do a lot of your customers still use hard drives and optical drives? No. If any customer still uses an optical drive, it's usually optical drive. People that hold on to the old stuff are usually home users, and are usually older home users. Businesses have almost phased optical drives out entirely, and when they need one, we just use an external USB optical drive. It doesn't make sense. Like if we were going to put an optical drive in every one of these boxes, that would be about maybe about $100 worth of optical drives. Or you could just buy one external USB optical drive off of Amazon, for example, for under $30 and move it around where you need it. One of my business clients has two. They just kind of keep one in a supply closet. That way, if one breaks or gets lost, they have the other one. So they very rarely use it. And as for mechanical drives, apart from network attached storage where we're using very large capacity drives for file storage, servers and that kind of thing, it's only home users. Yeah. The home users tend to be the most expensive users to support and the ones that will pay you the least and be the most demanding. So I've mostly phased the majority of home users. That's not the right way to say it. My business initially started out as servicing home users, but they're so fickle, they're so few and far between. Most of them want to squeeze you for everything you're willing to give up, that it just gets very tiring. And, at the end of the month, barely making ends meet. And they can be very, very demanding, just in general. With businesses, I find that there's more regular work, the work pays better, and as long as businesses allow me to do what it is I'm recommending for them, it usually results in only new work, not so much support. You still get a support call now and then, but it's pretty rare. Today I got a support call for a printer that doesn't print, and I think it's like a Ricoh, it's like a D360 or something. And I think somebody fidgeted with it and put it into network mode. And so now when you plug it into USB, the computer sees it, but it won't print to it. And there are 3 items in the device manager that Windows Update says don't have any drivers. And Ricoh's support, when you go to their website, only have like a universal print driver. So I don't know what those 3 items are in the device manager, but they're labeled as Ricoh 360 devices. And we were on the phone for probably an hour today working on it remotely. And I think I'm going to have to go there and physically, push the buttons on the front of the printer. And then the printer wants a password to make any changes. So I don't know if there's a default for that or if the company they bought the printer from might have to get involved over something so simple. If it's already going to be in network mode, it might be faster and easier for me to just plug a network cable into it and just network it. But what's weird is they've had it over a year, never had a problem. And then this just started up and they can't give me any rhyme or reason. They don't knowingly know of any changes anybody's made. So, that happens. But I would have never recommended this printer for them. They bought it without consulting me. So, I can just do what I can do. For the other things that they do consult with me with, we very rarely have support issues. It's usually new projects, expanding the office, wanting another computer for another, a new employee, stuff like that. You don't get that with consumers. Consumers, you might hear from them every 12 or 18 months for work, and they might just call you because you're faster and easier to pick up the phone rather than to actually look something up. So if a customer's not on retainer, they will almost guaranteed go to voicemail. And I'll return their call, usually within an hour or two, because I want to give the customer the opportunity they'll often be impatient, and instead of waiting for you to call back, they'll often figure it out themselves, which is what they should have done to begin with, unless I'm on a retainer. And most of the time, when I do wait about an hour or two before returning the customer's call, the customer will often say, I figured it out. I'm like, okay, no problem. Sometimes they sound angry. Oh, never mind, I figured it out. Well, you didn't pay me anything, so you got the experience, you got the knowledge, and you know how to do it next time because it's your hardware. So whatever happened, it's typically unique to the consumer's hardware. And a lot of consumers, they buy the cheapest stuff and it breaks, and it's, you tell them how much it's going to cost to fix, and you get to hear I only paid this much for it. Well, then go buy another one. I don't tell you. I didn't sell it to you. It's not my fault. I don't say it like that. I want to, but I don't. So anyway, I've phased out a lot of, put the focus, it's really what I want to say, on servicing businesses of pretty much any size. Once a business gets to a certain size, a certain number of employees, they start to monopolize my time, leaving me no time for anybody else. And that's usually where I have to say to the company, we probably need to go different directions. Your support needs have changed. You know, you're not the little company you were, you've grown. And what you need from me now, I'm not able to provide to you because it would take away from all my other customers. And I don't want all my eggs in one basket. If I do that, then the customer can start dictating to me what hours I work and what they're going to pay me. What choice do I have? Then am I self-employed anymore? No, I'm not. I'm effectively working for them and only them. So I sort of tread carefully with that. I don't mind if a customer needs to monopolize my time for a particular project, but if it's just ongoing, never changing, it's like, hey, this isn't going to work. You know, you either want to get somebody else or get somebody full-time hired directly. And that's happened a couple times, 2 or 3 times that's happened. And it's not any hard feelings or anything, and I'm happy to help in the transition for the new company to get any passwords or logins or configuration questions answered. And then beyond that, I charge them by the hour. I take them off the retainer. Say, you know, call me anytime you want, but you're at the regular hourly rate. So you've got kind of the extremes. You got the company that got too big, and you got the consumers at the opposite end of the spectrum there. And then right in the middle, that's my sweet spot for the business. The services I provide in my business are most ideal for that middle, for those higher end consumers, the ones that don't behave in the typical way or the common way. And then you've got your small and medium-sized businesses, which include lawyers' offices, dentist's office, typical places like that. Some small practitioners in medical. One of the businesses I had to have that discussion with was a pain management clinic, and they just got too big. And I just said, you know, you guys are calling a lot. And they wouldn't take the advice I offered, and they were buying used hardware. And they, you know, this company makes probably a couple $1 million a year, and they're looking to buy off-lease computers and then pay me to go through them and completely rebuild them. So I was like, enough of that. Later on, I found out that they had a flooding occur at their office like over a weekend, and the apartment complex, the building above them, had a leak, and it leaked all weekend. Brought the ceiling in and just drenched all the equipment, networking equipment, servers, everything was gone, fried. I found out about it after it happened, and I was like, whew, I got out of there in time. Holy cow. Guys, let's keep it friendly in the chat room. If we don't have nice things to say, let's just change the subject or don't address each other if there's an issue of chemistry with you guys. You're not changing each other's mind, nor will you ever, so any discussion further in that regard is just pointless and a waste of time. You know, best to just let it go. At the end of the day, what somebody chooses to do is their responsibility and it's their consequences. It's not anything that you need to get involved in. So allow people the consideration. If they don't want to look both ways before they cross the street, that's their business. Richard wants to know if I'm installing Windows 11 on new builds. I don't see any reason why I would. Is there any benefit to installing Windows 11 that I don't know about? Windows 10 is still good until October 14th of 2025. We have plenty of time to go to Windows 11. Just a little under 3 years, so certainly shouldn't be any rush for that. If a customer wants Windows 11, I'm happy to put it on. However, I can't understand why they'd want it, but I'm not the one who has to use it, so it doesn't matter to me. Mike wants to know how my sister's doing. Yeah, she's doing well. Thank you for asking. Marcus said, doing residential work is rough, is all I'm saying. Oh, it is rough because you deal with a number of different characters, right? You deal with all these different personalities. Some of the houses are just disgusting. You know, some people are slobs. And, you know, I stopped doing in-home work a long time ago because of the, well, the reason I stopped was because of the smells and the grossness of some ways people kept their house. But right about that time when the whole Me Too movement was also, well, I guess that happened long afterwards. There were some issues going on before the Me Too movement regarding accusations made about a technician being in a customer's house saying or doing inappropriate things. And so one of the companies I worked for started sending 2 techs out to every location just for that reason. And I was working on the side at that time. I wasn't full-time on my own. And I'm like, yeah, I had already stopped at that point most on-site customer visits, unless it was a customer I really knew well, or I had dealt with that customer and they have everything was clean and and you know wasn't gross. Some customers are located so far away too. I had an issue with one customer that insisted their laptop Wi-Fi wasn't working, and I told them they have a switch somewhere on their laptop that turns the Wi-Fi on and off, and likely they had deactivated it. And they lived clear on the other side of town. I'd only serviced their computer once ever, so I don't remember what they had. And I said, if I were you, I'd just look up the manual for your laptop and see, because if it's a laptop, it has Wi-Fi, and if it has Wi-Fi on a portable computer, you can turn it on and turn it off. She insisted she didn't have one. And I said, well, look, if I have to get in the car and drive nearly an hour to the opposite side of town just to push a button, I have to charge you $125. And I'm going to lose 3 to 4 hours of my day, depending on traffic, just to push that button for you. So if you want me to do it, I'll do it. But I'm trying to save you some money. She goes, all right, let me look into it. I'll call you back. Not even 10 minutes went by. She goes, there's absolutely not an on and off switch for this Wi-Fi or key press or anything. Prove me wrong. If you can, I'll pay you the $125. See you in an hour. Went over there, glanced at it, pushed the buttons. And it wasn't an I told you so moment. It was, I want you to see this. I want you to hold this button and press that button. Hold the function. And you see the little antennas there on your function key. Press that. Now you see the bottom right corner. You see how that went away? Now hold down the function key, press that. See how it came back? So that's how you turn it on and off. So I felt really bad. So I was like, well, what else can I do while I'm here? Her Malwarebytes was expired. I said, you know what? You want to let's renew it. You give me your credit card and I'll take care of this for you. Because she didn't, you know, she's not a computer person. Even though all you have to do is follow the on-screen prompts, she didn't know what's real and what's fake. So I walked her through that. She wrote me a check for $125, and 3 to 4 hours of my day was gone for that, pushing one button. So what are you going to do? I'm a terrible businessman because I was trying to get her to not hire me. And those were the only 2 times I ever went to her location and serviced her computer. Never heard from her again. Find me on the other side. You know, I don't want to go through that drive. And I know that, you know, it didn't end on a bad way. It wasn't like she was upset. It was exactly what I warned her. It turned out to be exactly what I said it was. But ideally, they found somebody closer. I don't know. But I never heard, you know, I heard from her once. It was probably a good, at least a year before I heard from her again. And then after I did that, never again. And that is really the overall general expectation of consumers. They're extremely fickle and can be very demanding. But in this case, you know, she held up her end of the deal. Money's money. Put a lot of wear and tear on the car. Took a lot of time out of the day. But sometimes people don't have support issues. They have tutoring issues. So this was a tutoring call. So if you think the price of education is expensive, you should see what the price of ignorance is. Think about that one. GWC Codster says, I have an unsupported computer that I don't want to have to stop using because it doesn't support Windows 11. Do unsupported computers still get updates on Windows 11? Well, again, I don't know why we're having this discussion 3 years before you need it. It's sort of like, have you picked out your retirement home yet? I don't know how old you are, but I'm assuming you're planning so far in advance, you have some anxiety that you're voluntarily torturing yourself with. I can't see any reason why you would even care, honestly. When we get to 2024 and you want to have this discussion, let me rephrase. When we get to January of 2025 and you still have that computer and it's still working and you're concerned that that coming October support for Windows 10 ends, let's have that discussion. The Greek says, I'm happy to support you, Carrie, knowing sooner or later we will be members-only site. Subscribed would only serve us well until then. I don't know, the Greek. I don't know. A lot of it depends on what YouTube is doing, right? I have to do some things that YouTube isn't doing. But if YouTube starts doing the right thing, well, I don't want to say the right thing, but if YouTube pays more attention to the value of their content creators and is a more content creator friendly environment, then, you know, things can change in a different way than you're predicting. But as we get into likely economic struggles in 2023 that's being predicted, some people aren't able to afford heating their homes this winter, or if they're not there yet, they might be before the winter's over, especially on the East Coast and in Europe. If the diesel fuel shortage continues to get worse and worse and worse, we're going to be in for some tight times ahead. It's temporary, but you know, it's what the economy goes up and down, does this sort of thing. And it's really difficult to be able to know what's going to happen. It's entirely possible I become unable to do this for one reason or another. It could be health issues, and it can happen in an instant. It could be a car accident. Life can change really quickly and unexpectedly. So just play it day by day, do the best I can, try to make it sustainable. If another opportunity shows up that offers me better opportunity for growth, regardless of what YouTube does, I might just put YouTube off to the side and not make it a primary concern. I wouldn't abandon it entirely, but certainly wouldn't perhaps prioritize as much of my time to it. So who's to say? It's really hard to know what the future holds. I would love an opportunity to allow everybody to enjoy the content for free while still being able to pay all my bills. So whatever that takes, you know, which who's to say? I thought the bigger my channel got, the more money I'd make, but that's not what's been happening. The bigger my channel gets, the more I'm just making the exact same amount. So I think, oh my gosh, where would I be financially if the channel hasn't grown? I'd be making about 30 to 40% less, 33% less for the same number of users, for the same number of views. That's not right. It's the same number of users. So if everything was the same as it was last year as far as my view counts, my revenue would be down a third. So the channels had to grow just to keep me straight across the board. It has not grown financially. So for it to grow financially, that means the channel has to grow, or I have to get more into sponsorship, merchandising, or other ways to generate revenue that's more than just making ends meet, or changing the type of content I make to more focus on reviews, interviews. Even with the reviews though, I'm buying the product. So like those 2 routers I've got coming are a little over $400 each. I think after sales tax, about, safe to say, $450. So for the 2 routers, that's $900. It's not something I can afford to do very often. And if I don't like the routers for any reason, at least with Amazon, I can send them back, get my money back. But it's not my intention. I doubt I would be buying those routers if I had a YouTube channel. So they're just expenses that come along with me voluntarily deciding that I want to do this, right? But at the end of the day, the electric bill and the cable bill and the cell phone bill and the food bill and the car and the insurance and the rent and the electricity, did I say electricity already? The water, the sanitation, the maintenance, it's just getting to be more and more and more money. So I do what I can to reduce my expenses and raise my income. And so far, it's resulted in me being flat. Like I haven't really grown. I definitely haven't financially grown, and I haven't financially shrunk. It's just dog paddling. It's like walking and staying in the same spot. After a while, it does get a little frustrating. So if one day you see me turn into a channel that's doing a lot of paid reviews by corporations, then you know I gave up. I said, you know what? All these other ways of trying to generate revenue aren't working, so people want to watch commercials, and commercials pay me pretty good to make. Then I'll just make commercials for people, which is what the bulk of your big YouTube tech channels do primarily, is they make paid commercials. So if you enjoy watching commercials, it's fine with me. I just didn't really want to make commercials, or not have a paid advertisement for a product disguised as a review. Just feels wrong to me. But those channels that do that, they make a lot more money than me. So keep that in mind. There's a member of the Go-Go's, you know the band the Go-Go's? Who felt the band was selling out when they were offered, a lot of money to basically make pop music. She's like, we don't make pop music, we're a punk band. Do you know what her name is? It's not Belinda Carlisle, it's not Jane Wiedlin. See, here's the thing. The ones that sold out, those are the famous ones that are wealthy. I guess they're wealthy. The one that stuck to her integrity missed out on all that wealth opportunity and fame. Is she remorseful or regretful? I don't know. I know I said I wasn't using the electric driver on this, but I'm just... Oops, that's way too tight. I'm reaching a point where I just want to get it done. Okay. Why did I put that screwdriver away? I'm not done yet. I gotta put the heatsink back on. Looks good. What the heck? All right, just about ready to fire this one up. I think that looks right. Let's see here. Keyboard and mouse. Power light, that's good. Fan spin, that's good. And let's go back over to our HDMI input. Ooh, that boots fast. And let's see. $16 gigs, 11600K. Windows is activated. We said that was a 1 terabyte drive. System's whisper quiet. You wouldn't even know it was on. And yeah, it's a 1 terabyte Intel drive. Everything looks happy. One more to go. Then it's just cable management fun times for me. All right. Good, good, good. There we go. I feel like I'm forgetting something. So this is what happens after you just keep repeating the same thing over and over without a serious break, is I'm starting to lose focus now. I'm having trouble staying on point. It's just doesn't require much brain activity for me to do this. So I get bored. They're good machines. Don't get me wrong. It's a good computer. They're great parts, and I'm sure the customers, these are going to be really, really good for the customer for many years. Doing a bunch of them at once is just tedious. I know that seems hard to fathom for some of you who enjoy it so much, but when you're doing it for fun versus when you're doing it out of obligation and there's a timeline, a due date, and you have to support it after the sale, it turns into a job. Not a bad job, but still very different from just tinkering at home. Channel 0 with $10 Australia. Sure, LTT, but I prefer Carrie because he puts in the whole thing. Yeah, again, whatever the big tech channels are, they all pretty much work the same way, and it's about the only way you can make it work financially while still offering free content. Although even the big tech channels usually have memberships on top of that. The bulk of their revenue is coming in from paid sponsorships that are effectively designed to look like reviews. And if you listen carefully, they'll often disclose that the sponsor of the video is what the video is about entirely. So you're effectively watching a big commercial. Now, if I take on sponsorships, so far, they've only been sponsors that I use in my business and would refer to in real life to my customers or for myself. So tomorrow, to give you an example, Corey Fruitman from Instant House Call, which is the remote access software I use when I service my clients, like earlier today when I was trying to sort out that printing problem, that was all done through Instant House Call. They have a new version 7, and it's much more responsive, and it has some new bells, whistles, and features. And I can't tell you what they are because I'm not exactly sure. I just basically use it for remote connection, and once I'm in, I don't really rely on any tools within the remote software themselves. But that might change once I learn what the new features are. So we're planning to have Corey join us tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern time in the evening, 6:30 p.m. And we'll do some live demonstration and introduce you to the new version. And that's not paid, by the way. That's, well, it is kind of paid. But Corey's a good guy. I really like him a lot, and I really like the product. Especially this new version is so much better. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow. I also want to bring Begowden on from Acronis. I wanted to do that this week, but he's ill. So we'll wait till he's feeling better. Hopefully next week we'll bring him on. We'll talk about the latest version of Acronis, along with a special offer. And then, of course, the folks from RoboForm. We'll have them back on to talk about the latest updates to RoboForm. These are all products I use myself, regardless of sponsorship. And that's one of the reasons they're sponsors, is I asked them to become sponsors. They didn't approach me. I approached them. And I've approached many other companies that either they don't respond or they don't want to do anything special for my audience. They want to offer the same deal they offer everybody. And I'm like, yeah, that's not good enough. And so we go our separate ways. I mean, it doesn't matter to me if they don't want the sales. So I still use their product, but I don't promote it. That's the main difference. I've had a number of companies approach me that I just don't want to promote their product. But if I was going after the money, the opportunity's there if I wanted to. Okay, that's number 3. And grab number 4. I'll be out frame for a minute here while I get the next Corsair 200R out of the box. Excuse me. Aaron A. It's AA Ron. Contributes $5 in Super Chat. Thank you, AA Ron. Chris Kelly says Corsair got a lot of traffic from you today. Yeah, well, there's a company I've reached out to numerous times, and I guess I'm just not a big enough channel for companies like Corsair or Samsung. They can't be bothered. But, you know, maybe I'd be the same if I was in their shoes. But maybe that'll change one day. I do like a lot of Corsair's products. I'd love to work with them. Just haven't been able to really communicate that to anybody. Or have it received with serious consideration, as far as I can tell. They go, you want to work with us? That's hilarious. Hey, Bob, check this out. For all I know, they're having that discussion. This guy thinks he can work for us. He thinks we're going to sponsor him. This tiny little YouTube channel. He doesn't even have 500,000 subscribers. What's he thinking? All right, let's see. We'll get this last Corsair 200R out of the box. Get it set up on the bench here. Here we go. If we tag them, would it help? No, I don't think it will. No, some companies, you got to understand that they have certain requirements that, you know, look, if you're not meeting the requirements, whether or not you tag them or bother them, if anything, it could work against me. It's no way to develop a business relationship of any meaning by, you know, pressuring them. If they don't see the value in it, I don't want to twist their arm. And because I don't know the reason, all I'm doing is speculating. I really don't know why. That's okay, you know, because it's not just, for example, Corsair. There's many other companies, whether it's EVGA or Malwarebytes, where I've reached out and I'm just not getting anywhere. Now, maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was the person who received the message wasn't the right person. It didn't pass it on to the right person. So it all takes time, though. You have to sit down at it and craft up an email and figure out who to send it to, and then wait and see if you get a response. And so when I'm doing that, I'm not making content. I'm not helping customers. I'm not doing the administrative work on my YouTube channel. That in and of itself can be a full-time sales position, which I'm not interested in doing. I'm not a salesman. I don't want to be a salesman. So I let things try to happen organically. I'll give it a little push just to see. But I might sit down one evening and kick off 3 or 4 emails, and then it might be 4 or 5 months before I do that again. It gets pretty discouraging. You have to knock on a lot of doors. And some of the doors I don't want to knock on, and that's the issue, really. There's plenty of like smartphone games that they'll pay me to promote. I have no interest in that. I don't want to talk about whatever the current game is that's being heavily marketed on YouTube. I just don't want to be another content creator promoting the exact same thing at the exact same time as other content creators. And besides, what's that got to do with the channel? You know? It's finding a balance. It's a struggle, but that's okay. I get to do what I enjoy doing, so at the end of the day, that matters to me more. But I appreciate you guys. one's got a power cable in the box too. All right then. $16 gigs, Intel 1 terabyte, Windows 10 Pro activated. Okay, good. What a Monday, huh? What'd you do on your Monday? I handled a bunch of support calls. Not a bunch. I handled a couple support calls, built 4 computers. It's a pretty good Monday. In the sense that things are getting done. Except for that darn printer. That remains unresolved, and I'll probably log back into that remotely tonight when they're out of the office so I can tinker with it without them. They're on the phone with me the whole time, and there's a lot of awkward silence while I'm studying what's on the screen. So I'm a little bit more relaxed and not trying to balance a conversation on the phone while I'm trying to fix the printer issue. And I can usually tell if the printer prints or not just by looking at the print monitor. So it's not like I need them to tell me if it printed. But if they're on the phone with me, I do ask, has that printed? I can tell when it has. You made the Corsair 200R case famous? No, I don't think that I did. The Corsair 200R has, as far as I know, been their best-selling case historically. It's for business. This is what businesses want, and there's not too many other cases that sell to the end user that aren't going after the gaming crowd, because the gaming crowd will spend more money for less, so it's more profitable. But certainly I've had a hand in promoting the case, whether or not that makes a big dent in their sales. I really don't know, and there's no way to prove it. So it's not helping them right now anyway. They don't have any to sell, so we can promote it all we want. They don't have any to sell. I did talk about a custom case with the folks over at Silverstone, because I was very critical of many of their designs. And I said, look, you need to do this. In my opinion, it should be this way and this way. And you should consider maybe even building a case to these specs, and we can market it with my name and market it on my channel as my design. And they said they'd present it to the engineers, and I never heard another thing again about it. So what are you going to do? We'll get back to you. Don't call us, we'll call you. And look, the folks over at Silverstone are great. It's just it's not their wheelhouse. The people that I talk to in marketing are not the people that are the engineers. And while they might think it's genuinely a good idea, they're not the decision makers. They can't make that happen. I've had a similar discussion with the folks at Be Quiet, where we have very different ideas for case design, and they're not really interested. I mean, they haven't said it, but they might as well have said, we're not interested. But that's okay. They make good products as well. I just don't necessarily agree with some of the design decisions that seem to be done for, as far as I can tell, because nobody else has done it, but not for any real legitimate reason that makes sense. Like, there's a reason why other companies don't do this. And I'm guessing when I ask why is this design in this way, I don't get any direct answer. So I have to assume it's just to make themselves appear different, but it doesn't make it better. If anything, it, in my opinion, makes it worse. And I've explained to them what the downside is of those designs. And they've always appreciated the feedback, but they've never acted on it as far as I can tell. So that's a little frustrating, but it's their business and they can run it any way they want to. They're great people. I don't want to talk poorly about them. I like working with them. I just wish some of their designs were a little more user-friendly. tried working with ASUS. They won't even send me product to review, but they'll send me JJ to interview and promote, as long as they're not paying anything for it. JJ is a great guy, but I'm not going to keep inviting him back and allowing them to promote their products while they're paying other YouTube channels to do that. I wanted to show them, basically, these are the kinds of questions I ask. This is my audience. This is the kind of exposure you're going to get. So you get the first one for free. And if you want to continue that, let's work something out. They never get back to me. So I'll take that as a hint. And I'm okay with it. You don't see I use a lot of ASUS motherboards. They're more enthusiast driven, but I do like their routers. And if I couldn't get a gigabyte board, my second choice would be ASUS. So it's not like they're bad or anything like that. Some of the layouts are really enthusiast driven. And when I ask them why, the excuse is because that's what the users in the forums want. But those users in the forums don't represent average users. And they don't care because as far as they're concerned, that's who their buyers are. I disagree. I think the vast majority of ASUS buyers are regular folks. I don't think there's that many enthusiasts. But that's the direction that I was told from their marketing department as justification behind why they do what they do. And I just think they're focusing on a very small group that's very loud. But if that's working for them, all the power to them. Okay, power supply is in. I need a bigger bench so I don't have to keep taking things and putting it in the drawer so I don't knock things over. That's why you'll see me repeatedly taking things out and back in again because I'm trying to free up some space only to turn around and pull it right back out of the drawer. I will get this computer moved off of here. I have a small table for this that'll go back here. And then I also have a Zoom F6 audio recorder and I want to run my mics through it to see if that'll give me better audio. So that's still stuff waiting for me when I have time on top of all the other things I've been telling you about. So it's all time management, you know. It's just trying to take care of what's most important or most demanding first, what's more urgent. These four have to go out by the end of the week. And we have a short week this week here, so I pretty much have to get this done by Wednesday. So I might decide to stay up late tonight and do the rest of the cable management, or I might not, or maybe I'll do one tonight, one tomorrow, 2 on Wednesday. I'll figure it out. Okay. Board is in. I'm just trying to get these power supply cables out of my way. Just grab that wire tie and hold those together. See, that's much better. And now, front port umbilicals go next. Hard drive LED, where are you? You go in your spot. Reset switch goes next. Power LED is next. And then the power switch is the last of our switches and LEDs to be hooked up. There it goes. And then USB cable. I can take care of this power cable with a hammer. Okay, that's the front audio cable there. All right. Whew, I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Unless that's a train. Jim says, are we on number 4 now? Yes, yeah, this is the last one. Yikes. See what I mean about stuff being on the bench? Super easy to knock stuff around. Need a bigger bench. I need a bigger studio. That one was easy. Richard Collins says hello. Welcome in, Richard. Good to see you. Nope, it doesn't look right. There we go. Barry Klein joins us in the chat. There's my friend Ron Hillier joins us in the chat. Kurt Schlegel joins us in the chat. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Just doing the final assembly of 4 mostly identical machines here that I need to have done. Oh, ideally by Wednesday night or Thursday afternoon, but Thursday's a holiday, so after Thursday afternoon, I won't have any time to work for obvious reasons. And then Friday is Black Friday. I hope everybody's ready. There's going to be some online madness to be expected and retail madness. Cyber Monday is the big online shopping day. And there should be some really good deals to be had this year, especially on things like solid-state drives and monitors. A lot of places have started early with their Black Friday deals, but I don't believe that those are the real Black Friday deals. I think they're just trying to convince you to spend a little bit more before it goes on sale. Of course, when it does go on sale, they might just run out real quick too. So there's that. Oops. I shouldn't have put my weight on that. Okay. Oh, that side was nowhere near as close to being done as I thought it was. All right, so I'm gonna just back this side off a little bit. Give it a chance to straighten that tension out. Get it all even tension across both sides. And get this fan put back on here. And we can fire it up. Everything looks good back here. Power, power. And we'll switch over to our HDMI input. And let's take a look. $11,600K, 16 gigs of RAM. Windows is activated. So that other system with 32 gigs? No. No, the one system with 32 gigs, I got to pull that and put in 16, and the other system, I need to activate Windows on. Then I can just do cable management, put the panels back on, get them back in their boxes, and they're good to go. This one is the 1 terabyte C drive, I think. Yep, everything's good. Perfect. That's what I was hoping for. Hard drive LED is blinking. Our LED works. Go ahead and shut that down. And then we'll just address any final questions and wrap up for today's video. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. This was just something I was going to work on by myself. Thought I'd do something a little different. and actually try and work while I was broadcasting at the same time. As you can see, I haven't been nearly as talkative as normal, so that way I could actually get the work done. First time for everything. Any final questions or anything I've missed? This will be your chance to ask, because it's going to be dinner time for me. Let's see. Angel contributed $5 in Super Chat and says hello. Hey, Angel, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. Chris says, great video, Carrie. Thank you for allowing us to see how you work. I would imagine this was not a great video. I mean, I wouldn't want to watch it. But, you know, if you enjoyed it, I'm glad you got to hang out with me anyway. Keep me company. It's obviously more interesting if you could look over my shoulder and see what I was doing versus being at a distance with the camera. But even then, as I mentioned, it's pretty dark. Looking into that case and my hands covering up everything may not have been as good of a view as you think. Barry says, you mentioned the video is boring, but how about expanding to how to combine yoga and build this while standing on your head? Yeah, sure. It's other people's equipment. What do I care, right? Carlos says, very cool. Seems like the good old days. Well, it's every day for me, my friend. It's just another day, more work, more computers. Be careful what you wish for. I do enjoy what I'm doing. Like I said, it's just sometimes it does get a little tedious. John Williams says, always good to see you. Well, I'm glad you got to hang out with us, John. Thanks for hanging out in the chat. Thanks for all the Super Chat contributions. Let me check my email before we go and see if I missed anything. Oh, Ron Barnish sent an Amazon gift card of $10. Thank you, Ron. Got confirmation from Corey Fruitman from Instant House Call confirming for tomorrow. So he's going to join me tomorrow, and we're going to talk about and demonstrate the latest version of Instant House Call. A major release recently was released for everybody, and version 7.0, and then there was a little issue they addressed, so it's 7.0.1 now. It's typical of any new release to have a little something that slips by. So they've got that all sorted out, and it's been working great for me, and I know very little about what the new features are. I'm just pretty much using it the same way I use the old version. So I personally am very interested in hearing from Corey tomorrow. I hope you'll join us tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern time right here, and that's going to be 3:30 Pacific time, which is 4:30 Arizona time. Of course, this is all in the afternoon. I'm not doing a broadcast at 3:30 in the morning. Not tomorrow anyway. Thanks for all of the contributions and for all of the kindness that you display, not only to myself, but to your peers in the chat room. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being a part of this amazing community that we have created. I hope it continues to grow and flourish with more like-minded, kind individuals. I will see you all again tomorrow. Again, I will be live at 6:30 Eastern time with a live demonstration and explanation from the creator and CEO of Instant House Call, remote access software designed for computer technicians. I hope you will join me then, and until then, bye for now.